Before we dive into this story, let me ask you a favor. If you enjoy emotional, dramatic stories about love, betrayal, and standing up for yourself, then please subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your support keeps these powerful stories alive. Now let me take you into a moment that shattered my world. My name is Daniel, and for years I believed I was living a dream marriage with my wife, Sophie. She was beautiful, witty, and the kind of woman everyone admired. But admiration can be a mask, and sometimes the people we love the most carry the deepest shadows. One night, with a smug smile on her lips, Sophie looked straight into my eyes and said words I'll never forget. "Daniel, my ex will always be part of my life, and you'll just have to deal with it." Those words didn't just sting, they set fire to everything I thought I knew about love. Her words echoed in the silence of our living room, louder than any scream could have been. "My ex will always be part of my life, and you'll just have to deal with it." For a moment I thought I had misheard her. Maybe she was joking, maybe she was testing me. But then I saw it. The smirk tugging at her lips, the confidence in her eyes, as if she had just placed a knife in my chest and was daring me to pull it out. Inside, something shattered. My veins felt like ice. I wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, to shake her until she realized the weight of her words. But all I could do was stare at her, the woman I had promised forever to, as she dismissed me like I was nothing more than a placeholder in her story. That night, as she scrolled through her phone with a careless grin, I lay awake beside her, my mind racing. Questions attacked me one after another. Why was she holding on to him? Was she comparing me to him every time we spoke, every time we touched? Was I ever truly enough for her? It wasn't just the presence of another man. It was the complete disregard for my worth. The vows we made felt like ash in my mouth. Most men might have argued, begged her to reconsider, or tried to prove themselves. But in that instant I felt something different. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even sorrow, it was clarity. Our marriage wasn't struggling anymore. It was breaking. And though Sophie didn't know it yet, the crack she created that night would soon split our world wide open. After that night, Sophie's words haunted me. They weren't just a careless remark. They were a window into something darker, something she wasn't saying aloud. And once a seed of doubt is planted, it grows roots fast. I began to notice little changes, subtle things most people might ignore. She guarded her phone like it was a vault of secrets. The moment a notification appeared, she tilted the screen away from me. If I asked who it was, she'd shrug with an annoyed tone. Just a friend, Daniel, stop being paranoid. But her eyes always betrayed her. There were evenings when she came home later than usual, with excuses so thin they barely held together. Traffic was bad, or I grabbed coffee with co-workers, yet the scent of unfamiliar cologne lingered on her clothes, faint but undeniable. And then there were the comparisons, small sharp daggers disguised as casual remarks. Tom always used to take me to places like, and this, Chris never minded when I stayed out late. Every mention felt like a reminder that I wasn't her first choice, just the consolation prize she had settled for. I told myself I was imagining things, that maybe I was being insecure. But deep down I knew the truth. Something was off. Something was very wrong. One evening she laughed at a joke she saw on her phone. I leaned over and asked, "What's so funny?" She froze for a fraction of a second before forcing a casual smile. "Just a friend," she said again. But it wasn't just a friend. I could feel it in my bones. The woman lying beside me every night was slowly drifting into another world. And where I wasn't invited, the seed of suspicion had grown into a storm. And I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth revealed itself. And when it did, I wasn't sure if I'd still be the man who could forgive. The storm inside me grew heavier with every passing day. Doubts became shadows. Shadows became truths I could no longer ignore. Then one night, Sophie slipped. We were having dinner, a quiet evening that should have been ordinary. She mentioned a restaurant I had never been to. Her lips curled into a smile as she added, "The food there is always amazing." I frowned. Always. "We've never been there." For a split second her face froze, her fork halting in mid-air. Then too quickly she forced a laugh. Oh, I must have seen it on Instagram, but her eyes darted away, avoiding mine. And I knew. Later that week she chuckled at a joke I didn't understand. Curious, I asked, "Who told you that?" Again the hesitation, the frozen look. "Just a friend, a friend." That cursed phrase. The walls of denial I had built began to crumble. Every smile, every late-night text, every guarded look. It all pointed back to him, the ghost she refused to let go of. Finally I confronted her. My chest tight, voice trembling, I asked, "Sophie, is it him? Is your ex still in your life?" I braced myself for tears, apologies, maybe even lies. What I got instead was worse. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, eyes hard with defiance. "Yes, Daniel. He'll always matter to me. If you can't handle that, maybe you're the problem." The words didn't just sting, they gutted me. It wasn't just betrayal. It was dismissal, a complete rejection of the vows we had made. I didn't shout. I didn't break plates or slam doors. I simply nodded, though my chest felt like it was being torn apart. Inside, my heart was breaking, but outside, I showed her nothing, because at that moment I realized something powerful. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't rage. It isn't begging or pleading. It's silence. It's walking away with your head held high while the other person drowns in the mess they created. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her words replayed in my head over and over. "My ex will always matter. Maybe you're the problem." I knew then what I had to do. Our marriage was already dead. All that was left was to decide how I would bury it, and I promised myself this: when I walked away, it would be in a way Sophie would never forget. After that night, Sophie believed she had won. She thought her boldness, her defiance had crushed me into submission. She mistook my silence for weakness, my calm for surrender. But silence, when sharpened by betrayal, can be deadlier than any scream. I played my part flawlessly. I woke up every morning, kissed her cheek, and went to work like nothing had happened. I laughed at her flimsy excuses, nodded at her explanations, and smiled during dinners. She paraded her victory, convinced that I had accepted her ex as a permanent ghost in our marriage. She believed she had broken me down into a husband who would tolerate being second best. What she didn't realize was that behind my calm exterior, I was planning. Sophie had always lived for her family's admiration. To them, she was the golden daughter, the perfect wife, the woman who could do no wrong. Every gathering, every dinner, every holiday, she thrived on their praise. And I decided that if she could dishonor our marriage so openly, then she would feel the sting of losing the image she had worked so hard to protect. My plan was simple, yet devastating. I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't accuse, I wouldn't fight. I would let the truth bleed out in front of the very people whose opinions mattered most to her. For weeks, I kept up the act. She believed she was untouchable, that I was too weak to act. She didn't notice me pulling away emotionally, didn't hear the ticking clock counting down to her downfall. Then the opportunity came. A grand family dinner hosted by her parents. The entire clan would be there. Cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents. The perfect stage. As the night drew closer, I rehearsed my words in silence. Not long speeches, not anger, just sharp truth delivered in front of the people she valued most. When the evening finally arrived, Sophie sparkled in her finest dress. She laughed, mingled, introduced me as her perfect husband. Blissfully unaware of what was coming, but while she enjoyed the spotlight, I sat in the corner, calm, steady, waiting, because I knew, before the night ended, Sophie's world would come crashing down, shattered by the very man she thought was too weak to fight back. The night of the family dinner arrived like a storm, disguised as a calm breeze. Her parents' house was glowing with warmth, golden lights strung across the dining room. The table decorated with silver cutlery and glasses that sparkled in the chandelier's glow. Laughter filled the air, stories flowed, and Sophie shined at the center of it all. She looked radiant that evening, her laughter sharp and confident. To everyone else, she was the perfect wife, parading me at her side as proof of her flawless life. To them, we were the golden couple. But behind my steady smile, I was counting down the seconds. Dinner was served. Plates clattered, wine poured, the air buzzed with family chatter. Sophie leaned in, whispering playful remarks, acting as if the words she had spoken to me weeks ago had never existed. And then, my moment came. I rose to my feet, napkin placed gently on the table. At first, no one noticed. They thought I was preparing to make a toast, perhaps a light-hearted compliment about the evening. But when I cleared my throat, all eyes turned to me. Sophie's eyes sparkled, as if expecting me to praise her. She had no idea what was about to come. I steadied my voice, calm but piercing. Thank you all for being here tonight. You love us both, and because of that, you deserve the truth. Our marriage, I paused, the room holding its breath, is finished. Tonight, I'm announcing our divorce. The room froze. Forks suspended mid-air, glasses halted in mid-sip. Gasps rippled through the family like shockwaves. Sophie's smile faltered, confusion flashing into panic. "What are you saying, Daniel?" she hissed, her voice trembling. I turned to face her directly, my tone unshaken. "I'm saying that my wife has made it clear she will always prioritize her ex over our vows. She expects me to accept being second best. I won't. I deserve more than that. And I'm done pretending this is a marriage built on respect." Gasps filled the room again. Her father's face flushed crimson. Her mother's lips parted in shock. Whispered murmurs buzzed around the table, every pair of eyes locked on Sophie. Her mask began to crack. "You can't humiliate me like this," she spat, her voice sharp and shaky. I looked at her one final time, calm, unflinching. "You humiliated yourself when you chose another man over your husband. I'm simply telling the truth." The silence that followed was deafening. Sophie's carefully crafted image collapsed before her family's eyes. No excuses, no lies could erase what they had just heard. I placed my napkin neatly on the table, turned to her parents and said quietly, "Thank you for the meal." Then, without another word, I walked toward the door. Behind me, Sophie's voice cracked, calling my name, desperation bleeding through. But I didn't turn back. As I stepped into the cool night air, the noise of the dinner fading behind me, a weight lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I felt free. Sophie had thought she held all the cards. But in that single moment, the entire game had changed, and she was the one left standing in ruins. The days that followed were chaos. For Sophie, not for me. Her calls flooded my phone. Messages poured in at every hour. She showed up at my workplace, tears streaking her face, her voice breaking with desperation. "Daniel, you misunderstood. It wasn't what you think. I exaggerated. Please, don't leave me." But her pleas came too late. Once respect dies, love has nothing left to breathe on. Her family, once her biggest source of pride, now looked at her with disappointment in their eyes. The flawless daughter, the perfect wife, they no longer saw her that way. The mask she had worn for years had been ripped off in one night, and the truth stood naked before everyone. As for me, I found peace in the silence she once mocked. I didn't carry rage, I didn't carry sorrow, just freedom. For the first time in years, I felt the strength of choosing myself, because holding on isn't always strength. Sometimes the real power lies in letting go, and that night at the dinner table I did just that. I chose my dignity over humiliation. I chose respect over betrayal. I chose freedom over being anyone's second choice. If you've ever been in a relationship where someone makes you feel like you're not enough, hear me when I say this, love without respect is nothing but emptiness. The moment you let someone convince you that being second is acceptable, you've already lost. Don't be afraid to stand up. Don't be afraid to walk away. Don't be afraid to reclaim your worth, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, the one choice they never expect, is to walk away with your head held high. And if this story resonated with you, then do me one favor, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded of their worth. Never forget, you are not anyone's second choice.